Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon to all our friends connected online. Welcome to this session of Italy4Climate session. It is my pleasure to moderate this session about climate, and we have today here in this session some practical people whom with their business decided to concentrate on climate action, and they will tell us what are they doing in practical terms to reduce their carbon footprint and how we can make it real. So it is my pleasure to introduce to the stage Maria Paola Chiesi, Andrea Illy, please come, Davide Bollati, and I would like also to say hello to our colleagues that are with us online. So I see Luca Bragoli from Erg, I see Riccardo Piunti from Conou, Massimiliano Rossi from ING, and Roberto Venafro from E2I. Hello. So you can see us, you can hear us. Thanks very much. And what will this session be, what will be about? It will be about climate action, and in particular, this year is very important. The next 12 months are very important because, as you know, there will be the COP26 in Glasgow, the conference of parties for the Paris Agreement. Everybody was very happy about the Paris Agreement, but now this is the first conference of parties in November 2021, where the practical commitments from the stations, from the continents, from companies will be real. And this COP is being organized, it will be organized together by the Italian government and the UK government. There is a link between these two governments. And so it is very important that we will see together which will be the main point of the COP. That's why we will build a bridge with UK, and I will introduce the intervention from Nigel Topping, the high-level climate action champion for UN from the British government, UK government. It is very important that the government prepare the COP, and our British friends are doing it in a very practical way. They are building what he will tell you, Race to Zero. Race to Zero initiative is dedicated to companies and businesses. And Italy4Climate is the, let's say, is the causing initiative of Race to Zero, or is the practical initiative that we are doing it in Italy. So I would like to introduce Nigel Topping and his intervention to open this session.
Hello, my name is Nigel Topping, and I'm the high-level climate action champion for COP26. And this is a job which was created in Paris as part of the Paris Agreement to work with businesses, cities, investors, young people, civil society, everyone who's not a national government, to drive ambition and accelerate action on climate change. And by doing so, encourage national governments to raise their own ambition and speed up their own action. In this role, along with my fellow champion Gonzalo Munoz from Chile, in June this year we launched the Race to Zero, which is an initiative to get as many of those organisations, businesses, schools and universities, investors and cities to publicly commit to getting to zero carbon across their whole value chain by 2050 at the very latest. The sooner the better, that's why we called it a race. And we made good progress so far. We have well over 1,000 businesses, 500 cities, $5 trillion worth of assets under management with investors, and over 500 universities. So we've got a year to go, and we want to see another massive increase in those numbers joining the Race to Zero by COP26 next year. Earlier this year, in fact, just last month, I was in Rome and the Vatican. And it was great to meet a wide range of those non-state actors of civil society, business, city, and other leaders. So I'm really encouraged by the way many different actors from Italian society are stepping up and demonstrating their commitment to the transformation that we need. I really want to acknowledge and welcome the Regeneration 2030 pledge in partnership with Italy for Climate and other groups. I think the clarity, I love the ambition of the pledge. It's beyond climate. I often talk about the need for a regenerative economy, and it's also great to see the clarity of that zero carbon transition within the pledge. I hope that we can work together to use that pledge also as a route into the Race to Zero, so that everyone signing that pledge becomes a member of the Race to Zero. Obviously, the UK presidency is working closely with the Italian presidency. I'm particularly looking forward to the Youth COP and the Pre-COP, which will be hosted by Italy. My team, and Gonzalo's team, are working closely with the Italian organisers of those events to make sure there's a strong non-state actor voice, of course a very strong youth voice in particular. I hope many of you got a chance to see the TED Countdown event recently. If not, you can find everything on TED or on YouTube, where I'm really proud of the diversity of voices, both across gender, across geography, and across the generations. There were many young people played a key role in making the TED Countdown initiative a real success. And we also used that to launch Count Us In, which is a big initiative to try and mobilise 1 billion citizens around the world. I'll just end you with the thought that COP26 is really at its heart a negotiation between national governments. But national governments sit within society. They're chosen by society. They respond to society. So every single voice that stands up and says, I'm committed to the full decarbonisation of the economy as soon as possible, so that we leave a better world for future generations. Every single one of those voices matters. Every single voice counts. Every single voice influences government. So please, as individuals, join Count Us In. As businesses, cities, universities, investors, join the Race to Zero, with a massive signal from all of us towards the world's governments, the UK government, the Italian government, and every other government in the world, that we want this transition, we're committed to it, it becomes inevitable, and those governments will respond. So thank you for your leadership, and I look forward to working with you on the road to Glasgow and COP26 in November next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nigel. If you got the message, the COP26 will be focused on the cooperation between states, governments, and business and communities. So for the first time, it is not the climate targets coming from above, like a law that we must respect. It's a cooperation. That's how the British presidency is organizing the COP26. They want to build, like we are doing in Regeneration 2030, a network, a movement of business people, but also cities and regions that get there and declare what they will do. It's a very practical approach, and this can make the COP a success. We are tired to see the COPs that end up without an agreement and saying the next one will be the good one. This has to be the good one. And we are also very proud as Regeneration 2030 that they appreciate a lot our pledge. And they said, Andrea, they said that our pledge can be part of the Race to Zero movement for the COP26, and I think this is a very good proposal from the organization of the COP in Glasgow. So now, let me tell you briefly what is Italy4Climate. We feel that Italy needs an umbrella initiative giving numbers, studies, research, commitments, targets. That was Italy4Climate. You see, it is promoted by Chiesi, Conou, Davines, E2I, ERG, Illy, and ING Italy, but it is open to all companies, so please join this initiative, because Italy needs a central point where all the topic of climate is really investigated, and also we can do steps ahead, cooperating with our government, okay? And just to make the long story short, look at this. We have just calculated now the last data on 2020 emission. This is a forecast, of course, done by Italy4Climate based on official numbers. of course, you see a reduction, but what is very important is that the global emission, as you know, they are rising, but see what we must do in the next 30 years. It's a radical change and complete change. It's really a race to zero, as they call it. And for Italy, this means that Italy4Climate is proposing minus 55% of the emission, a reduction of 55% of the emission in 10 years. Somebody can say that it's too much, but if you see what happened in the last year, we have done something already interesting from 2005 to now. We need to do more, and we can make it. It's ambitious but achievable, like our pledge, to get to zero to 2050. Okay? And what is important, Italy4Climate has presented the national report. You can download it from Italy4Climate internet site, from where this reduction should be taken, from which sectors. Industry is the sector that is still producing the most, 2,025 megatons of CO2, even if it's a sector that has reduced it a lot, but it's still the big one. As you can see, there are sectors, in particular transport sector, that is not doing its part, and it will have to reduce a lot in the next 10 years. So this is our proposal for the Italian government, and please, if you want to add something or send your comments on this is open to all of you and Research Center, okay? So, coming now to the speakers, I would like to ask to Luca Bragoli from Erg to start. I don't see Luca in my screen. Maybe they can show it. Erg, the Italian company, is a very good example of what we can call regeneration of a company business or of the company core business. They completely disinvested from fossil fuels, and now they are one of the champions about renewable energy. So Luca, can you tell us more?
Yeah, sure. I can tell you more about my company. The company has been working for 15 years now, so a big part of my working life. Let me tell you who we are now with ERG. 80 years of experience in the energy sector. We are a family-owned company with a modern management drive listed on a Milan Stock Exchange. But we are today leading renewable energy developer and operator in Italy, owning and operating both wind, solar, and hydro assets. And our continuous expansion outside Italy has led us to become among the 10 largest onshore wind operators in Europe. That's amazing if you consider that we have been for 70 years an oil operator. So today, we are a company with a business model oriented towards the decarbonization objectives, with a strong willingness to be leaders in the current industrial transition towards sustainability. Next slide, please. So, next slide. Sorry, thank you. As I was saying, we used to be a company focused on the running of our refinery in Sicily and distributing oil products in Italy. Through a 10-year industrial repositioning process, we have become a European-wide multi-technology renewable developer and operator. And our financial performance along this path has allowed us to expand not only in Italy but abroad in Europe. And now we are present in France, Germany, UK, Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria. And we are willing to grow further through our sustainable business model. Next slide, please. And again, this slide shows you how the capital invested of ERG has moved, has changed along this path of repositioning we have gone through. In 10 years, you can say, clearly pointed out by this slide, that our invested capital went from gray to green. And so this is something important because next slide demonstrates and explains how a greener invested capital has led us to an almost 90% decrease in the amount of the carbon emissions related to our power productions. That's incredible. And our commitment is to continue on this path. With the business plan 2018-2022 that aims to avoid 15,000 tons of CO2 emissions over a 5-year period. A strong, real commitment. The next slide, please. Let me focus on one of our main projects. It's a part of our current industrial business plan. And it's one of the ways to achieve and to implement our sustainable development strategy in Italy. It's to modernize our wind operating assets. I'm talking about repowering. Repowering is a 400 million euro investments project, and it means upgrading our oldest wind farms which are reaching the end of their operating life, and allows to increase the capacity and quadruple the output in terms of greener production, all while halving the number of turbines. In few words, repowering helps to reach our emission targets, creates construction jobs, green jobs, and limits the impact of the land use due to renewable developments. Next slide, please. So just few words on repowering. What are the 4A's challenge that we are facing with repowering? The first challenge is acceptability. Modern turbines are more efficient, produce more energy, but for sure, their size is larger than the previous one. So the size is sometimes a challenge for landscape impact assessment procedures, though local communities are usually more than happy with the repowering initiatives. That's the retour d'expérience from our experience. So second challenge, authorization. This is a challenge for both repowering and greenfield projects. But for repowering is a bit disturbing because even if the project is simpler, easier, the authorization path is the same that we have for greenfield project, and that, frankly speaking, makes no sense. Third challenge, access to grid. Again, higher output of green production requires connection and transmissions. So grid network development has to be timely and coordinated. Fourth challenge, it's really Italian one now, it's auctions. In Italy, we have had in the past measures, provisions preventing repowering from accessing auctions. Now, last legislation allowed a certain bettering of these conditions, but we still have to allow the access to auction on a level playing field perspective to repowering and to greenfield. So a bit more of effort in order to allow the full potential of repowering to be implemented in Italy. Next slide, please. Just a few words to conclude. Decarbonization, in our view, is a global process. It cannot be renounced. It's a no-regret solution. ERG is committed to play a leading role in this process. That's why ESG drivers are part of our strategic decisions, and the current business plan is totally, fully dedicated to renewables. As I was saying, in Italy, we are focusing, we are pushing on repowering projects, as we believe this is the way to increase green production and limit the land use increase. That is something we have to face in order to develop renewables. So, few words again. Recovery fund and the pandemic crisis giving us a chance to develop through the funds that will be made available to fund a clean energy efficiency, to focus on clean energy efficiency and digitalization. I would say it's a one life in a lifetime chance. We have really to exploit this chance to create a more efficient, clean, and just economy. So our personal suggestion, the aspects we would like the Italian decision makers to focus on are clarity and adequacy of proposals, direction towards energy transition and economy decarbonization path, and overall determination and capability in execution. These projects, these measures must be implemented. Because we believe that these are opportunities enormous to electrify the economy through renewable power, which is the right direction to face the decarbonization path. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks very much. So, thanks very much. Now, we've seen that companies are changing and they see that investing on renewables is the future, so this is a very good example. Now I would like to go again to talk about Illy, because everybody, of course, each one of us in the world know how much Illy coffee is good, high quality, but what is really impressed me is to see how a person could invest a part of his life in something that is not directly connected with the core business production, but something that is connected to our life and planet. And this is what Andrea told us this morning in that excellent session on food. So you made us very curious about this model. In the first session, you gave us some just glimpses. So please let us know more, in particular about the carbon sequestration and how this could help. Please, Andrea.
Okay, thank you. So, we must be carbon-free by 2050, has been said and repeated. And of course, agriculture must not only give its contribution, but also adapt to the effects of climate change. We have seen this morning that agriculture is responsible for a substantial part of carbon emissions. But there is also a problem with malnutrition, as has been seen by the FAO presentation. Malnutrition is impacting over 50% of the world population. And of course, if we don't do something, the two problems, climate and nutrition, will become more and more difficult to manage. So, in the meantime, by 2050, food demand is expected to grow by 50%. So we have a kind of a decreasing return path due to climate change, impacting on malnutrition. At the same time, the demand grows. The only possibility is really to make a quantum leap. And so seeking a possible solution, the solution is the relationship with soil, which also, as anticipated this morning, makes humans to be healthier. So human health, soil health, human health. This is the binome. By enriching the soil with carbon, and soil is a carbon sink, which is 3 times larger in terms of capacity than the atmosphere. So we could really offset carbon emissions in the soil before even forests. It's much larger than forests. We also have a diet, as I mentioned this morning, which influence health and diseases. Most of the food, as has been said in this morning, are contaminated with chemical residues or pharmaceutical residues, particularly in meat, which could be causes of non-communicable diseases. So there are plenty of sustainable agronomical practices which can solve these problems. As I said, not only by mitigating climate, but also adapt to it. An example of those agronomical practices is organic, which in Italy we say biologico, biodynamic, which is a niche, because this is very restrictive and can hardly be scaled up. The new European farm to fork strategy sets a goal to reach 25% organic agriculture in 2050, if I remember well, which is already ambitious. The rest of the agriculture needs to find other solutions. Integrated farming is an alternative, which means putting animals together with crops. Agroforestry is per se very sustainable. It doesn't need any fertilization. It boosts biodiversity, and it can sequestrate up to 7 gigatons of CO2 per year. Of course, this goes at detriment of productivity. We would need more land, but it's land which is forest. Regenerative and holistic agriculture are two similar models which aim at regenerate the soil by increasing the soil organic carbon. No tillage is the very first thing. Tillage is responsible for the, let's say, most substantial part of carbon emissions. Using cover crops allow to sequestrate carbon, but also develop the roots under the soil and develop the microbiota of the soil thanks to carbon enrichment. And agroecology is a kind of a holistic approach to agriculture, which takes account also the waste. So this is again a strategy from farm to fork. As you know, we waste 1/3 of the food production every year along the supply chain. So in order to reach this ambitious goal to make agriculture carbon-free or even carbon negative, at the same time as increasing production and building resilience against climate change, you can hardly make it only by improving the agronomical practices. In general, the problem, the systemic crisis we are living is due to the fact that in the last century and a half, after the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and then later on the Agricultural Revolution, we did grow exponentially. But natural resources can only grow linearly. And this creates a big gap. And we will have the same problem here. So we need to have a quantum leap. And so genetically modified crops are not well accepted in the typical old, let's say, generation of GMOs. But in the future, we will probably have better, let's say, genetical engineering, which is interspecific and not intraspecific. Intraspecific, not interspecific. So that means that you don't change the genome of the plant. You just activate different genes. All in all, the idea is to pursue at the same time, in order to transition the model towards this virtuous agriculture, the dual benefit. As I was mentioning, modern genetic, there has been a few weeks ago the Nobel Prize to these two scientists for the CRISPR, which is the new technology for genome editing. This is the way you do, which is much more, let's say, sustainable. This will be necessary, and genetics will help us accelerating the natural evolution. I think that there is in agriculture not one single food that we consume which has not been genetically modified by breeding. So we don't consume kind of wild plants as they were originally in the. So it's absolutely normal to adapt biological species to our food systems. Modern genetics will help us accelerating that. Here is the distinction between what is healthy food and beneficial food, as you will see. Healthy food doesn't cause any harm to the environment, but beneficial food gives you a benefit. You kind of use food in order to improve your health, which is what Maria Paola was recommending us during lunchtime. Eat a diversified diet, don't eat too much, and this will be the best possible medicine. So the definition of virtuous agriculture is a food system with a double benefit, environmental and for health, which combined with a a dietary change and genetic improvement produces food which are beneficial and protective against non-communicable diseases. The dual benefit, of course, is for the grower and the consumer, because in order to change agriculture, we need to create a good reason why, a very strong reason why for growers. And the best possible reason why is to have the demand from the consumer and ready to pay premium price for virtuous food. So I have a roadmap of our project. The idea is to start studying the interaction between soil health and human health with a big data approach. We are starting this year with the Italian Institute of Technology, and later we'll try to build a prototype and then start studying single specific products. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Andrea. I think this is just the start of a trip that we are making, and hopefully we can make it together in this Regeneration 2030, because everybody in the world is discussing about regeneration in the agriculture. And this is really the new frontier. And also the carbon removal is one of the reasons why the Conference of Parties of the Paris Agreement is not working very well, because we know very, very well how to reduce the emissions, but we still don't know how we can really regenerate soil and how to prevent carbon from the soil, the exit from the soil to the biosphere. So I think that this is really a central and strategic point for the next decade. So thanks very much. So Maria Paola, you've heard this morning, she's been awarded for the social dimension of her company, and particularly for the women, and the women percentage in the job position. But every time she speaks about this, every time she speaks about business, she always speaks about the environment, because she's leading a lot of wonderful projects here in Parma. So please, Maria Paola, can you tell us more?
Thank you, Raimondo, especially for not putting any pressure on me. So, well, Chiesi has elected climate action as one of our priority, not only because we think it's the main emergency we have together with social inequity, but also because we think it could be a source of competitive advantage for our company. So we have engaged mainly in three big areas, three big challenges. And I'm not going to give an exhaustive list of what we are doing, but just to give you a hint of what we decided to commit to. First thing is carbon neutrality by 2035. And this is a major commitment for a pharmaceutical company, because the pharmaceutical sector is highly regulated. You have to consider that to develop a pharmaceutical product takes 15 years. And every time you change anything, even a comma on the box, you have to go through the regulatory authorities in all the countries where you have registered the drug. So it's really difficult. So we have committed to carbon neutrality, and our activities span from energy reduction to analysis and adaptation of all our buildings, for example, or reducing the dependency from fossil fuels. But the biggest challenge is in our products. We produce inhalers for asthmatic patients, and unfortunately, till now, the propellant that is in our inhalers is a greenhouse gas, a potent one. Of course, the use of propellants, of these propellants, is very limited, so the real impact on the entire CO2 production in the world is really negligible, but still, 90% of our emissions are linked to that propellant. So we have committed to a big plan to change the propellant. This takes 10 years, 350 million investments. And 350 million investment.
Can we give an applause, please, to this? I mean,
but this is also part of the problem, because if we do it and our competitors don't, how can we keep competitivity, given this hurdle, this cost, and the length of this process? But we are committed to that. We are at an excellent point, so we plan to file the new products by 2025. So in this way, the patients will be able to have a full array of therapeutics in order to, also for them, to be carbon neutral or carbon minimal, instead of being forced to choose a device that maybe is not suitable for them. Another big area that we have invested in is sustainable products. So not only the propellant, and sustainable processes, but also the packaging, the plastic that is in our devices, for example, the chemistry. We are a pharmaceutical company, so we produce chemistry. So we have a great big engagement in sustainable chemistry. And in designing products, designing pharmaceuticals that are green by design, so starting from the very early phases of research. And as I said before, it takes 15, sometimes 20 years to have a product from the early phases to the availability on the market. Another intervention that we are doing now together with Davide and Francesco Mutti and other companies in our territory is also a project of reforestation. So I agree with you that offsetting should be limited to the minimum when we have reduced everything else and we cannot do anything else. But still, if we can, reforestation is a good way to subtract CO2 from the atmosphere. And so we have created a consortium that is called Chilometro Verde Parma. So I'm doing a lot of a little advertising for this. That has the goal of planting something like 20,000 trees each year in the county of Parma. So which are the issues? First thing are the standards. When we decided to become carbon neutral, we didn't have any roadmap or any standard given by the European institutions or the Italian institutions. So we are following standards that are not European. We are following a UK standard, for example, the PAS 2060, or the LEED standard for our buildings, which is an American standard. So we need standards. It is important that our institutions, particularly as a European Union, give us a precise roadmap to reach these goals. We need clarity of the rules of the game. Otherwise, we cannot be competitive. We cannot stand those kind of investments if our rules are different than those from our competitors. It has to be obligatory, compulsory for the companies to be transparent in their impact, to be transparent in their emissions, including also transparency of the entire value chain. Because many companies now are putting the emissions in the supply chain. And so they are clean, they are carbon neutral, but their supply chain is very gray. And this is something that is not acceptable, particularly from a competitive point of view, in addition to the climate point of view. So these are the hurdles we have, and in a way also the battle we are engaged with, also to bring these issues to the European Union Commission. So I think I stayed in my 9 minutes.
Thanks very much. It's a fantastic group of speakers because, you know, when they speak about the efforts, they touch the single challenges and problems that the companies are facing. All of them are, you know, not only saying how much they are good, but what are the obstacles. For example, this topic about the lack of standards is one of the things that Italy4Climate is claiming in Italy. It's very important to help the companies. And also the idea of reforestation is very important. We are not saying that compensation is bad. It's very good, especially while you are doing all the effort that you can to reduce. In the meantime, so in the next years, it will be very important to plant new trees. So this is, and also not all reforestations are the same. It depends on which projects. And Chilometro Verde in Parma, and Davide will tell us more about this, is one of the very good projects in terms of quality. And if it should be certified by a standard that we still don't have, it will be, I think, a gold one in Europe. So thanks very much for this. I don't know if Roberto has solved his problem. Tell us about the Edison Group, and in particular, your focus on decarbonization.
Yes, thank you, Raimondo. And first of all, I would like to thank Regeneration 2030 for the opportunity to discuss very important subjects such as climate change, and in particular the crisis of climate change. I have a brief presentation, if it's possible to show and upload the presentation. Thank you. The next slide, please. Okay, I will start with my presentation with giving you some information about E2E Energie Speciali. E2E is a young company. It has been established in November 2014 from a partnership among Edison, F2I, Italian Fund for Infrastructures, and EDF Renewable. Its mission is to strengthen the innovative business model based on sustainability principles, addressed to enhance the share of renewables in the generation mix, coherently with the environmental and energy targets defined at the European and the national level. At the end of 2019, E2E has overcame 700 megawatt of wind capacity installed, thanks also to over 160 megawatt between greenfield and the repowering of existing wind power plants entered in operation in the last 3 years. This capacity will be overcome when other 70 megawatt will be realized together new and repowering capacity. If I should use a slogan to characterize E2E, I should say E2E is a company anticipating the future. And E2E is a promoter of Italy4Climate because we believe in a transition time when the energy sector can give an important contribution on the mitigation of greenhouse gases. The next slide, please. Today we are in a framework where all the industrial sectors and the energy sector in particular have to confront with the ecological transition. I have used the term ecological because the transition will have to include not only the energy transition, but also cultural, social, and economic transition. The ambition to build a European Union climate neutral by 2050 means to accelerate the net zero emission target foreseen by the Paris Agreement. Ambition that has assumed a concrete action with the climate law that will bring greenhouse gases emissions reduction target until 55% by 2030 compared to 1990 level. This is a strategic pathway supported by an energy union strategy and a clean energy for all Europeans as EU long-term strategy. The next, please. So we are now have the opportunity to change our economic model, passing from a linear to circular economy, where both efficient use of resources and the recovery of energy and matter should guide through a new renaissance. We have to take advantage from, like Raimondo said before, from next COP26 that will have to accelerate the real implementation of the Paris Agreement, above all in terms of increasing the NDCs, nationally determined contributions. In addition, the recent economic and social crisis triggered by COVID-19 should allow to change our pattern of production and consumption. In this framework, the Next Generation EU is a very important tool to support both the restart of industrial sectors and strengthen strategic sectors necessary for the health and the well-being of humankind. The last slide, please. Okay. The concrete strategy for making effective decarbonization will have to be coherent with the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. The 2030 become thus a target year where the climate and energy targets are integrated by 17 goals of sustainable development. In particular, the clean energy innovation, responsible production and consumption, climate change represent the key goals for the decarbonization. In this scenario, E2E believes that the repowering of existing wind power plants could guarantee the access to a modern, affordable, and clean energy, such as the increase of environmental benefit, like decreasing land occupation. In conclusion, I believe that the climate crisis will have to deal with resolution and equity without leaving no one behind. This is my brief intervention. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Nobody, I've seen, I'm very sad because nobody wants to hear me playing the harp. But on the, but what is important, you know, Italy in 2011 was the country in the world with the highest new capacity of renewable energy installed in terms of power. We were the first one, more than Germany, more than US, and any other, in 2011. And now the electricity mix of Italy is one of the cleanest in Europe. But what is not so good is that in the last 4 years, so please see the Italy4Climate report, we are stable. It's like when you are the first of the classroom and you say, I'm so good that I've done my homework, so I don't want to improve. Okay, so Italy needs a boost in renewables. That's why we have here invited these 2 champions of renewable energies, but we need a boost. We need a boost because we want to be the locomotive in Europe of renewable energy. And we can do it for many reasons. So let's not forget our goal. So regeneration, Andrea, is something that we spoke about in these 2 days. I will come home, go home with a series of thoughts. But there is sometimes I think we should also change in the future some wrong meaning or perceived meaning of regeneration. For example, I was talking to a manager of a car company, and I told him, why don't you use recycled plastic instead of virgin plastic for the internal of your car? And he told me, if I tell my customer that this is a regenerated plastic, my customer could feel that this is something not good in quality. And if we think about a regenerated mobile phone, sometimes we think that it's not as good as a good one. So there is a possible meaning of regeneration, especially in circular economy and recycling, that we should overcome in terms of culture. Regeneration of material is something very good. And so we should work on this, I think, for the foundation is something that we should work on this, because regenerating materials, it's very, very good also for quality. We have invited in Italy4Climate a consortium, an Italian consortium. They do regeneration of the mineral oils since decades. They were the first one to use this term. We are regenerating the oils of the car and the automotive, regenerating, and Italy has the 97% percentage of recycling of the mineral oils, a very incredibly high ranking. So please, our friend Piunti from Conou, can you hear us?
Raimondo, thank you to everybody, especially to Fondazione per lo Sviluppo Sostenibile, who has invited me to this event. I would like to begin saying that the challenge of 2050 is a very, very hard challenge. Since to reach this goal, this very hard goal, we need to have in mind the word inclusion. Why I'm saying inclusion? Why? The first thing is that we have to include in this pattern all the activities, all the systems. I mean that we are not only speaking of renewable energy, we are not only speaking of circular economy, we are not only speaking about bioproduction, we have to analyze and to in each of these activities. Circular economy, of which CONOU is a representative, is inside the system of emission, is inside the system of CO2 emission, is inside the system of climate change. So no activity can be left out. I think that we have not the possibility to say that's not important. I think everything is important. And we have to include, once more, even all type of emissions in our mind, since emissions are related one to each other. Emissions are could impact on climate change, even they are not the CO2 emissions. So if the inclusion is the key word, Conou is an example of inclusion. Conou is an example of inclusion since it includes 70 companies, which each of them has its own economic objective, but all together have in mind the common objective on environment. So when we made our sustainability report this year, we had in mind this inclusion word. And so we worked with our 70 companies, not only on data and figures and preparing papers, but even in thinking about our futures, about what we call materiality analysis, which is to think about the main issues we have in the future of our activity. And from another point of view, we included in our analysis all type, as we said before, of harmful emission. So not only CO2, but even ozone layer, human toxicity, water scarcity, land depletion of carbon. Since everything is connected, everything is included. Conou is an excellence, as Raimondo said, in Europe. We more or less collect 100% of waste oil, and we regenerate more or less 100% of collected waste oil. So we are an example of a complete cycle of circular economy. So such an example is important, since even could be good reference for our other types of circular economy and for other countries. I know that there is a country in Europe who is analyzing deeply our organization, our laws, our operations, in order to understand how we have put in place our system. Include each type of emissions. This is in our sustainability report. This is the output. It's a complex output. When we made our LCA analysis, we not only focus only on CO2, 73,000 tons per year saved by our complete circular economy, but we also analyzed different types of emissions, like sulfur dioxide, like carbon depletion, like water, like phosphate ions, like dichlorobenzene equivalent for human toxicity, like CFC. So I think that we have to include each type, because each emission is related at the end to the climate change. So we are an excellence, we are 100% regeneration, but nothing is forever. We cannot stay so, we cannot wait. We have to make our fight for the future. So 2 key issues in our future. First one, growing collection means lower quality collected or waste oil. Lower quality means that we could have problems in regeneration. So we are working with waste oil producers. We want to engage them, since they have a role in order to avoid illegal or wrong mixing of other waste liquids with oil. There is a small joke I would like to say. In a factory, when you arrive at the main entrance, there are a lot of people with the tie, elegant, and they normally can read and know very well what is written in the official gazette. Official gazette is the newspaper of laws in Italy. But on the other side, in the secondary entrance, in supplier entrance, there is another guy who normally can read Sport Gazette, which is another newspaper. And so even in the factory, they need to help us in order to avoid that there are something wrong in the utilization and mix of liquid waste. The other point is that growing collections means more regenerated product availability, and with the price even lower of energy, with the price even lower of base oil, virgin base oil, the market room for regenerated products is always smaller. We are not worse than the virgin base oils, but it's clear that our product should be seen like a regenerated product, like a renewable product, like a bio product. So we need that even in the rules, there is something like a GPP, so green public procurement, or something like this, in order to help our regenerated product to find its room in the market. So these are the two main axes of our action for the future, since even with a perfect 100% circular economy, we cannot stay and wait for the future. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Riccardo, also because this matter of regenerating materials is very important, and it will be something that we will deal a lot for the future. What he's saying is about price. In the food section, it was very interesting, saying that the food quality is not reflected in the price, meaning that who is the best one pays much more, and it's so the product is much more expensive than who is doing a lot of pollution. This doesn't work, and it's the same in circular economy. It's the externalities that still are not reflected. So we still have our two presentations, and I think they are very, very important both. It's really a pleasure for me to give the floor to Davide Bollati. Davide is one of the leaders of this coalition, the starters of this coalition in Parma. You know, when we study at the university, the public-private partnership is something that they always told us is something, but we really don't know what it's about until we see it physically done. And in Parma, there is a group of companies that make it real. And Maria Paola, Davide, Francesco Mutti, and Andrea Illy, who, even if he's not from Parma now, he became a kind of, let's say, formal Parma citizen. You know, here there is something happening.
Ad honorem.
Ad honorem, yes. This didn't come to my mind. Can we propose this to Pizzarotti?
Yes, you can.
Let's think about it. But what is important is that these companies are helping the administration, and they are helping the territory and the region to getting better in environment and in social. And this is something that really is not very common, so it's good examples in Italy and in Europe. So Davide didn't read only the Sport Gazette and the Law Gazette, because he's reading a lot of books. He went to Bhutan, he's learned a lot of things. So what is important, Davide? Can you tell us more about this regeneration in your company and in your life, and what are the goals of your activity?
Can you show the first slide, please? So, well, first of all, I need to thank all the organizers of this event, because I think it's one of the best events I attended when it comes to quality of information, and it's really interesting what we have been able to put together. I wanted to start by showing these spheres, that one is interconnected with the other. Actually, there should have been another sphere, the smallest one, that is at the individual level. In this 2 days, we saw a lot of presentations that were touching at the individual level. Yesterday, we were with the Vatican, with all the spiritual leaders panel, Padre Fortunato. We touched on different aspects, individual level regeneration discussion. You know, we touch on happiness, and we realize that happiness starts from within, and then it goes a long way. The second level is business. Well, when it comes to business, 50 of the 117 points that we have as a B Corp are part of the environmental component. You know that in B Corp you have different chapters of scrutiny, and environment is one of the most important one. So the business level is also another very important dimension of the regeneration movement. Then there is the community level movement. This is what I will talk about in the next few minutes. And then also the planetary level. We realized, we were talking about the butterfly effect before, and we realized that we are all in the same boat, we are all in the same planet, we are all very, very strongly interconnected, so it is important to have also a global perspective. I think in these 2 days we had lots of contribution from global institutions, United Nations and European Community. We touch many times on the fact that if you want to be a systematic changer, you need to work at the global level. What we did not touch yet is the community level. So I would say individual is nano, business is micro level, community is meso level, and planetary is macro level. So from nano to macro, once you have aligned the 4 dimensions, then means that you are on the right, we are on the right direction altogether. So focusing on the community level, that I wanted to share what we are doing in our community and in our communities. Next slide, please. Along with my partner in crime, Paola, we are starting to become like a Bonnie and Clyde of the situation. We started with the Chilometro Verde Parma years ago. The idea was just to add, to transform. It's a very simple and obvious idea, but not that obvious considering that in our region of Emilia-Romagna it has not been done before. The idea is to transform the piece of autostrada, the freeway that goes through the Emilia-Romagna. Autostrada del Sole is the most traffic freeway in Italy, Milano-Rome, to transform it in a green infrastructure instead of an infrastructure. Fondazione Sviluppo Sostenibile, they have knowledge on green infrastructures because they even have conferences on green infrastructure. Most of the time in Italy, not only we talk about are infrastructures good or bad, and basically the Green parties here that have a they have 2% political power, which is nothing. They always say no to everything because they think is not good. But if we do good infrastructure, maybe green infrastructure, why not? You know, it's a matter of not doing it or not, but how you do it. So we have an infrastructure. Can we do it green? So then we started with this Chilometro Verde. Now we expand it not only on these 11 kilometers of the freeway, but around the territory, the whole province of Parma. So we started with this one. Then we partner with the city hall of Parma on the participation to European Green Capital Award. This is an award that is promoted by European Community. You see the 12 chapters. I think it's important to mention all of them: air quality, climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, nature and biodiversity, sustainable land use and soil, green growth and eco-innovation, sustainable urban mobility, governance, energy performance, water, waste, and noise. So these 12 chapters have been scrutinized by a commission from the European Community. They gave us notes. They gave us, in some areas, Parma came out very strong. In some other areas, not so much. Unfortunately, we didn't make it to the finals. But now we have a report. So the idea is now what are we going to do with this report?
But nobody makes it at the first time, huh?
Yeah, okay. But But you suggested us, instead of trying immediately to repropose a new dossier, first to do some homework in the city, and then maybe to repropose. But once some homework has been done, so now we have to make sure that as a community we take this report seriously, and we put together some plans in order to cover the weak points. That's a very interesting project that, of course, it's a public-private project, because public and private have different perspective, different long-term, different time perspective, because sometimes the public party, the public administration has a shelf life that depends on the election time. Sometimes it's difficult to plan and to make things happen together. The third project that is, as you can see, I think is quite coherent with the other two, is the project that we are putting together now. We are creating an alliance of all the province, with the university, with all the region, with the province, with all the different mayors of the county of Parma. We have around 50 mayors around here. So we are working with them to sign an alliance for carbon neutrality for this province that is almost 500,000 people, 450. How do we get there? How do we do it? We don't know yet, but we have ideas. We know that, when we will do it, also we don't know yet, but we are working on it. There is one very good example that we take as a reference. Is the province of Siena. Siena in Italy is carbon neutral since a few years, but they have the advantage of having only 250,000 inhabitants, so less. They have less industry, for example, than Parma, and also they have geothermic that we don't have. So I think we need to work a little harder on this. Probably we need to compensate around 2 million tons of CO2. I wanted to make a deal with Bhutan, but I'm sure that Raimondo will not accept that, because they have a plus 4 million. We have, but Raimondo will not accept the compensation, compensation and trading strategy. So we need to come up with some other strategies. And then the last one, it's a project that is still at the beginning. It's a vision for the next 10 years for our community. Again, it's a communal effort. And of course, this vision will have a perspective on sustainable development. And the idea is to work it with the inspiration of, again, the B Corp movement, the B Lab movement that has already a lot of experience in making B cities or even B states, like, for example, Edinburgh, Scotland, Barcelona in Europe are starting to work on this one. So, as you can see, there is, and then there are other projects, but these are the four more important, maybe, on environment. So that is the commitment that we have right now on the meso level, that is community level.
Thanks very much, Davide. You see, what has completely changed since in the last decade is that the relation between companies and factories and industries and the administration on environmental issues is completely changed. I remember when I was graduating in environmental law in 1993, and I remember that from 1993 to a few years ago, the relation between administration, governments, and companies was, I give you the rules, I give you mandatory rules, you have to respect these rules, environmental obligation and rules, and the companies were saying, I want to do what I need for my product, please don't give me more rules, I want to be free to pollute. Okay, this was the past model, what we could say the extractive and brown economy model. Now, in a few years, this has changed completely. It's the companies going to the administration and say, hey, we should do much more than we are doing in this community. We can help you, not only with money, also with money, that is very much needed. The public needs money, but also with ideas, with technologies, with commitment. So let's do it together, going beyond the laws and the rules. This is something that that we couldn't imagine. Well, we read the public-private partnership, but it was like a dream. Now, in Palma, in Italy, in many territories, this is happening. And I think this is part of the revolution. And now to close up this session, last but not least, and in this time we really mean it, is a bank, is a financial institution. Today we saw that green economy needs a lot of money, but needs also a lot of different ideas of investments from banking, from investment funds, for all the financial community. So we are glad to invite and to close our session, the ING Italy, because they were one of the first ones at global level to understand that they needed to change their mentality to invest in different businesses, and now they take the result of the seeds they planted years ago. So I give the floor to Massimiliano Rossi from ING. Can you hear us, Massimiliano?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Massimiliano Rossi. I'm heading the wholesale banking division of ING in Italy, which is the division that serves corporates, financial institutions, and funds. And I'm particularly happy to participate in this event that gives me the opportunity to share with you what we are doing as ING and what the financial institutions can do in terms of climate action. I'm also very happy to see that among the speakers there are several of our clients that tells me that probably we are doing, we're having the right customers. First of all, what is climate change? How do we address climate change? First of all, we think that a sustainable business is a better business in general. I mean, we not only do business and help customers doing a sustainable business, but we also do it for moral reason or for ethical reasons or for society, but also because we think it's a better business also in terms of credit quality. We think there is a strong correlation between what clients do, how they do it, and their credit merit. So, in our opinion, that's an extra reason why we have chosen to make sustainability a pillar of ING's strategy. In particular, as you can imagine, for us, it's important how we impact the world through our choices, because banks and the finance community in general can play a very important role in promoting change, in allocating funds to sustainable business and sharing our knowledge with the clients we finance. A few words on ING. As you know, ING is a very large banking group. We have a balance sheet of almost 1 trillion. We have 38 million customers across the world. We operate in over 40 geographies, and we are present in those geographies with 53,000 employees. So from our perspective, among these numbers, what really can have the biggest impact on society in terms of climate action is our balance sheet, those almost 1 trillion that we put into the economy, and if we direct in the right way, can really make a difference. What do we do as a bank in particular? First of all, we made choices. First of all, what we don't do. We do not finance coal, for example. We have decided already several years ago that we wanted to exit this sector. Obviously, this comes at a cost because we have been the first bank across the globe to take this decision, which meant that we lost some opportunity in terms of business. But nevertheless, we thought that was the right thing to do. And we are gradually running off our exposure in this sector, and we aim at having zero exposure to the coal industry by 2025. And then there is what we do. We do sustainable projects, first of all. So we participate, as you can imagine, in green bonds. We grant green loans, which are loans whereby clients can benefit from a discount in terms of margin, the margin they pay on loans if they achieve certain targets. So we are willing to reduce our remuneration if clients can achieve certain targets. And we also try to focus on developing as many innovative products that go in the same direction. Since 2007, as far as Italy is concerned, we have financed almost 1.5 billion euros in renewable projects in the energy field. So we have made this area a really strong area where we really wanted to focus on. And apart from the renewable sector, we have also impacted significantly in other areas, for example, in the real estate sector, where we are financing a growing number of green buildings, which now constitute the largest part of our portfolio. Then, if we go on, I wanted to briefly touch on this Terra approach. Terra is a project launched by ING, whereby we want to make use of our 600 billion portfolio, as I said before, to align with the Paris Agreement's goals. So to reach this goal, we are testing and co-developing and applying various methodologies that allow us to accurately measure and steer towards climate targets. This approach, as I said, is called the Terra approach. And with this approach, we want to focus on sectors in our loan book that generate most positive climate impact. This approach is inclusive, is collaborative, so we want to really share with the rest of our clients and the co-financiers our criteria, because we think that working together can really make a big difference. All in all, climate change, as I said, is an unparalleled challenge for all of us. We strongly believe as a bank that we need to work all together with our clients, with the governments, and through sensible policies that direct our sizable money and our sizable balance sheet towards the right projects and the right companies. And we want to cooperate with methodologies which we call open source, so to co-create and partner with all the other players in societies. And we do believe that these methodologies can really benefit also banks from having an industry-wide standard that can be used by everyone. So that's my brief presentation. If Raimondo, you have any question, I'm very happy to answer.
Oh, thanks very much for your point. So, we hope that you have enjoyed the session, so thanks very much. But we still have 5 minutes for questions, and they told me that there are at least some questions coming from online connected people. I don't know if you can read them. I will read the question, and then please let me know who of the speakers would like to reply. Has your business strategy on sustainability and climate change in light of the new economic... this is very interesting. In light of the new economic situation. So the strategy on sustainability and climate, is this changed in light of the new economic problems and the pandemic? Did you, please tell us if really the problems with this transition period has changed something in your commitment and strategy?
I very briefly, no, it didn't change anything, But what we did in the past for carbon neutrality became very useful when we started to face the pandemic. Because, for example, we decided to diminish our traveling last year. So we made a significant investment in video conferencing and work in proximity tools. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we were already ready from day one with smart working and so on. So in a way, if you invest in climate action, you not only anticipate the law, but also possible other crises, and you are already ready. So I think this is a key point to be understood. It's not simply a cost. It's something that returns back.
So being resilient means be prepared for sudden changes, because you have already some strong pillars and strong foundation of sustainability. Very good point. Andrea?
Basically no change, with the exception that we think that the new normal, as is commonly said, will be based on a green strategy. So we try to accelerate even more what we were already doing before.
Okay. And Davide, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I would divide the answer in two parts. The first part, it was during the emergency, March and April. We had to come up with a contingency plan to secure the company. So in that period, we freeze many things. But then after 2 months, as soon as we were back in business and we were, let's say, out of emergency, what we did, we strengthened the commitment. We strengthened the commitment to our sustainable beauty strategy, and we realized that this year we realize more than ever how robust our community is and how resilient. it's a word that is used a lot right now. In this period, our community is, and it's all about the values of that we have. So I think it's a great strategy. It's definitely a competitive strategy for us. It's at the center of our reason to exist.
Okay, thanks. The second and final question, I will use it also to include the other speakers. I will need only an answer by maximum 5 words, okay? Can you show me the question? Because it's very, very interesting, and this is one of the reasons why Italy4Climate is there. Can you tell us, if you have an obstacle for your sector, there are many obstacles in each sector of a carbon business strategy, what would you ask? No, please don't put me more questions, it would be very difficult. What would you ask the government, and Italian government and European government to do? Can you make a request? What would you request for your carbon strategy? Maria Paola.
Oh, well.
If you had the magic stick.
Yeah, I would ask them to involve us in a dialogue to co-build the protocols and the standards for the carbon neutrality. Otherwise, the companies are left to voluntarism, consultants.
Protocols and standards.
Absolutely.
Good. Andrea.
But do it together.
Okay.
Do it together.
Okay.
Yes, I would say the same. We have a hard time measuring carbon efficiency.
Okay.
Both how much you emit, the carbon footprint, at the same time as how much you can sequester, store. So this is really needed.
Okay, Davide?
Well, right now, I think Europe with this Green New Deal and also Italy, they are showing a lot of good intention just to make it happen, because I think there is a lot of discrepancy between the words, what we say, and what we are able to make happen. So I think it's time to make it happen.
Make it happen. Walk the talk. Massimiliano Rossi?
No, I think, I mean, as a bank, you know, for us, I mean, we've been carbon neutral for many years. For us, what really matters is what our clients do, those 30 plus million customers. And so my advice to the government would be just listen to companies, listen to investors, and try to accommodate the request to accelerate on climate action.
It's very interesting. You know, the business and the bank saying to government, listen to us on carbon emissions and carbon reduction. This is something really, really interesting. Riccardo?
See, I already said at the end of my intervention, I think that regenerated product is like a renewable product. In general, not only about waste oil, even in all circular economy, the regenerated product is like a renewable product. And so I think that the authority, the government, should have in mind this concept.
Okay. Then Luca, Bragoli, and Roberto, the last one. Luca, non ci sono. They are not there anymore. So we will ask them, we will take their questions to the government. So we thank you very much for having seen this session, have been share with us this session on Italy for Climate. What is important and interesting, we've seen the pledge this morning, the Regeneration 2030 pledge on climate action. What we've seen today in this session are people who really done a part of the pledge. We've seen banking saying we will go out from coal in 2025, and this is a part of our pledge. We've seen companies say investing 90% on renewables and only 10% in fossil fuels, and this is part of the pledge. We've seen companies saying regeneration of the soil and regeneration of natural resources, and this is part of the pledge. So this means that the pledge is really ambitious but achievable, but you must be a champion like these people. So enjoy the rest of the conference and enjoy Italy for Climate. This is open to all companies and business. Thanks very much.